Good morning. We are starting today's program with a panel discussion featuring an education subcommittee focused on process control standards. Led by Nipendra Singh, this team has made great strides since we last met in St. Louis, and the entire PCS core team is here to explain the program and answer your questions. Without further ado, allow me to introduce Nipendra Singh, ICI Director and Education Committee Chairman. Nip?
Good morning, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry. My name is Nipendra Singh, and currently I'm a board of director member and also chair for education committee. And I'm here with this distinguished panel of which represent about 250 years of plus experience here. And I'll go through my sections, and several other panel members will be presenting theirs, and then we'll have the question and answer at the end. So here we talk about the process control standard mission statement. The mission of process control standards subcommittee is to create, establish, and summarize in a numerical manner. You can read the rest of it, but I want to emphasize what is numerical manner. We wanted to take the bias out of any assessor, whether it's the internal or external, about the situation. So it has to be numerical. So purpose and objective of this is to be used as a continuous and self-improvement tool for you, the foundries. And I want to emphasize here is that it's a continuous and self-improvement tool. It is not required by your customers. It is not required by ICI. It is only if you choose to improve yourself, this can be used. And I would like to add that this has proven more than what this statement says in the last beta test during our meetings. Historical information that we initiated this during process control classes, ICI process control classes, and you have seen, some of you have been participant of that. And discussion, our instructors was always there. Wow, it would be great, if we have some method to compare to a set of standards. What is process control in each foundries? And out of that thing was, we presented a white paper during ICI 2011, and also presented in a world conference in Japan. I had a lot of input from many of you guys, and out of that, we went back to the ICI board of directors, and the board decided to take this as a strategic issue by ICI. So initial PCS core group was formed with the members of Perry Harvey, Len Siriati, John Marson, Doug Marion, Joe Fritz, and myself. Looking back, there's a lot of changes came through over the time during our meetings, and big changes, small changes as it happens. The biggest challenge was in front of our team was how to reconcile the differences between different foundries, a aerospace foundry, a commercial foundry, a medical foundry, and some foundries maybe 10 people, some foundry maybe 500 people. So we wanted to make sure we addressed that thing right in from the front, and we kept on going. Our current team is Brian Ferg from CPP Corporation, Joe Fritz from ICI, Greg Lanham is ICI member emeritus, Pat Nykel from Bestcast, Tom Plants from Kowatch Casting, Nip Singh from SNA Consulting Group. So after 8-9 years of initial concept, we are ready for a beta plus test. And what is a beta plus will be explained in by many members of our team, and it will be followed by a question and from audience and answer from panel. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Nip, and good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Ferg. I'm with Consolidated Precision Products in Cleveland. And in this section, I'll be talking about how to become process certified by the Investment Casting Institute. So there's 3 levels of certification that's offered by the Institute, following the Olympic motto of bronze, silver, and gold medals. The first level is the bronze level, in which the company needs to meet 40% of the criteria. And this is the only level that requires, or that a company can self-survey. The next level is the silver level, where the company meets 60% of the criteria. And this survey is done by an independent surveyor that's sent out by the Investment Casting Institute. The highest level is, of course, the gold level, where the company meets 80% of the criteria. And like the silver, this survey is executed by an independent surveyor sent out by the Investment Casting Institute. All certifications are valid for 2 years. And when qualified, you can see the company will get a plaque indicating what level of certification they have. This next slide covers a little more detail on the bronze level certification. Like I said, it's the only level where a company can self-certify. And this certification is performed by an internal surveyor, in other words, a member of the company who was trained by the Investment Casting Institute. Once the survey is completed by the internal surveyor, the results go to the ICI Process Control Certification Panel. This panel has 30 days to respond, pass or fail. There's no charge to ICI member companies. And as the bullet indicates, this level of certification demonstrates that the company has taken basic measures to implement process control standards in their manufacturing areas. This next slide is for those who like, excuse me, flow charts, and it shows how the flow chart certification, the flow chart for bronze certification works. You start with the internal survey by an internal surveyor who's been tested and certified by the Institute. If the survey fails, then there's a rework loop, so to speak, where you correct the actions, corrective actions are taken until a positive result is obtained. The company then submits the request for certification. The panel takes a look at it, and if that's good, the company becomes certified. The next slide covers some details on the silver level certification. And in this level, the bar is raised. So instead of 40%, you need to meet 60% of the criteria. In this case, the company first does a self-survey, and they submit a request for an independent surveyor to be sent out by the Investment Casting Institute. The ICI will then send an independent surveyor to perform the survey. Results again go to the panel, and they have 30 days to respond, pass or fail. And like I said, the silver certification indicates that there's a higher level of process control than the bronze. They've taken additional measures to implement process controls to enhance their manufacturing processes, but there's still some room for improvement. On this slide, there's more detail on the gold level certification. Just like the silver, the company first submits a self-survey and a request for an independent survey to be sent out by the Institute. ICI will then send an independent surveyor to perform the survey. Again, the results go to the panel. The panel has 30 days to respond. The gold certification indicates the company has taken additional steps above and beyond silver, and it's the highest level. So you can see from the text there that the certification indicates the company has full engagement by management, is committed to continuous improvement in their control of their processes. On the next slide, there's a flow chart that covers both silver and gold. It's very similar to the bronze flow chart, but there's an additional block inserted where the independent surveyor is required to come out and do the survey. Once that is done and it looks good, the request is submitted and the ICI panel passes judgment on the results. So how do you become certified? How do you get started? Well, you first contact the Investment Casting Institute, tell them you're interested, and then you need to select an internal surveyor candidate within your company who then gets trained by the Investment Casting Institute on how to complete the process control survey checklist. This is free to all ICI members. So with that, we're now going to hear from my good friend Craig Lanham on the key variables that are embedded in the process control survey and how to complete the process control survey checklist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. When the PCS team developed a method for rating a foundry's process capabilities and outcomes, we centered on the foundry's primary goal: providing castings that meet their customers' dimensional, metallurgical, structural, and cosmetic needs. We felt that these needs were best defined as the key output variables, or KOVs, of the foundry. To achieve these KOVs, a foundry must manage the individual processes that control them. The process controls the foundry uses are best defined as key input variables, or KIVs. Therefore, to meet a foundry's KOVs, it must control the KIVs to the process. The PCS team then reviewed the processes within 3 foundry departments: wax, shell, and the foundry itself, as well as the foundry's management team's involvement to determine the processes that should be deemed as key input variables. These KIVs and their associated KOVs are what a surveyor will be rating. While there are about 180 KIVs that the PCS team viewed as applicable when rating a foundry's capabilities, no foundry will be rated on all KIVs. The team identified 14 KOVs of the process, and in most cases, all will be considered universal and rated. KIVs for the production departments are separated into one of 4 different categories: environment, machines, materials, and methods/procedures/manpower. Management KIVs, 4 categories are communication/visibility, financial support, employee awareness, and failure reviews. Prior to a foundry survey, the required KIVs are established for the manufacturing departments and its management team. Using the wax department as an example, the KIVs grouping for machine/wax presses finds that there are 6 required KIVs that will impact the wax room's KOVs. KIVs can be added if the surveyor and the foundry deem it appropriate. Production department KIVs are rated on 6 criteria of manufacturing capabilities. These 6 criteria are predefined and have been described and characterized to increase uniformity in assessments. The criteria are calibrated, certified, monitored, procedure, education, in practice, and deviations identified. The rating scale and possible score is 0 to 5 for each criteria. The PCS team then created what is the basic tool for compiling the results of the survey. This tool is the surveyor's checklist. The surveyor's checklist allows the surveyor to enter a value of 0 to 5 under each required KIV for each criteria. The checklist is a functioning spreadsheet that will collect and compute a foundry survey results by KIV and KOV for each criteria. The portion of the survey that assesses management role in controlling the foundry's KOV is based on pre-established criteria for management capabilities. These criteria are different than the production department's criteria. These ratings are characterized by a yes/no rating, which is then converted to a numeric rating. Departmental and managerial scores are captured, calculated, and finalized, generating a foundry's overall rating. Now we're going to turn it back over to Joe Fritz.
Thank you, Craig. Well, as we've just heard from both Craig and Brian, a lot of time and effort have gone into the design and development of the system. But the work wasn't done there. We had to validate it and make sure that it was working. So we decided to do a series of beta tests. The first beta test was conducted at Kovacs Casting. There, each of the members of the core team acted as an independent surveyor looking at both the wax and the shell areas. At the end of the day, we felt that we had done a fantastic job until we chose to consolidate our data, and we found that it didn't correlate. As it turns out, we all were applying our own self-reference criteria based on the markets that we've served and the foundries that we've worked at. So refinement was necessary. The first area of refinement was with regard to the scoring definitions, identifying specifically what a 1, a 2, a 3 is. How does somebody get a 5 in a given area? So those definitions were developed. Secondly, we were looking at a much larger group of criteria, and each individual criterion had a tendency of overlapping with another. So we consolidated those, simplifying the process. Once we accomplished this, Kovacs Casting took the new system and conducted a self-survey. To hear about that, here's Tom Plants. Tom?
Hello, I am Tom Plants, president of Kovacs Castings. I've been a member of the ICI Process Control Standard Committee for over 2 years. I was excited to join the committee in 2018 for 2 reasons. I strongly believe that the development of a process control standard is important for the future health of the industry, and I felt I could contribute as well as learn during the development of the standard. Kovacs Castings was the beta test site in October of 2019 for the survey. Some expectations to help the ICI committee complete the development of the process control survey. Also selfishly utilize the 5 ICI process Jedi Masters knowledge while engaging KCI employees during the PCSS. So for fun, I define my 5 counterparts as ICI Jedi Process Masters. Due to their infinite knowledge of the process, 200 years of experience between the 5 of them, as well as the fact that they're all older than I am and they're much more wrinkly. And the oldest 2, as you can see, are black and white photos. KCI expectations continuing, engage management, supervisors, and employees to identify and correct process Georges by utilizing a comprehensive process control checklist. We joke around here about process shortcomings, deficiencies, and errors as Georges. You can see Mr. Costanza there on the right. Beta test site findings. We found many process Georges in the survey. We had successful engagement of management, supervisors, and employees. And rating the survey was difficult to determine. So the 6 of us struggled to assign consistent scores. So as the process control committee identified and modified the checklist and defined the rating scales, KCI completed 2 additional self-surveys. With the completion of each self-survey, the surveyors became less focused on the checklist and more focused on identifying the process Georges. KCI has implemented the PCSS as a quarterly requirement under AS 9100 Rev D paragraph 4.4. The first survey under the requirement was completed August 28, 2020. We utilized our process engineer, manufacturing engineer, and quality manager to complete the survey. Some of the findings. General process procedural Georges were identified. Deviations were identified, had the highest frequency of 0 score. So basically, if we have an issue or out of compliance with a process, what do you do about it? It's not defined. Part-specific processes were found to be accessible, well-defined, and well-communicated. Employee competence training matrices were incomplete. Employees were well engaged. Surveyor scoring was lower due to the strict adherence to the PCSS scoring definitions and a deeper investigation of the departmental procedures. Looking forward, departmental scores will be discussed with and published within each department. Timelines will be created to correct process Georges. Rating definitions may be modified and expanded for KCI's internal survey purposes. Expansion of the KIVs to include some proprietary machinery and methods. And continued reduction in scrap and rework costs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tom. Well, we received some excellent feedback from Kovach, not only from our initial independent survey performed there, but also from the ongoing self-surveys conducted by the company. The feedback they provided led to further refinements in the survey, and it further supported the need for us to establish a training program for surveyors, in particular when it came to scoring. We were very excited to learn that Kovach adopted the survey as an internal tool, and they're using it to support their ongoing continuous improvement processes. Yet we still knew that further validation was required before we released the tool to the industry. So it was time to introduce another beta site. Bestcast Incorporated volunteered to be our beta 2 site, and to hear about what happened there is Thad Nykel. Thad?
Thanks, Joe. I'd like to start by reviewing the ICI's mission statement. The Investment Casting Institute will market the investment casting industry and support its members by facilitating professional, academic, educational, and technical interests, and will provide a forum for advancement in technology and product quality for customers and manufacturers, while promoting free trade, fair competition, and adhering to U.S. laws and regulations regarding commerce and industrial trade. This center section of the mission statement is exactly why the ICI developed this survey, a forum for advancement in technology and product quality. The PCS team hopes that by using this survey and then incorporating changes into your processes, instructions, and training, you will achieve these goals. So the first question we usually get asked is this an audit or a survey? An audit is defined as an official inspection of an organization's accounts, typically by an independent body. A survey is defined as a general view, examination, or description of something. The PCS team realized that after the first beta survey, that a rating system was essential in describing the level each criteria is currently achieving. The team didn't want to just check boxes to show that there had been a review. What did it take BestCast with their survey, with their beta survey? What did it cost us? It really didn't cost us anything. If you want to qualify your people's time, you're more than welcome to do so. But otherwise, there was no additional costs, unlike a lot of audits that we all can go through in our day-to-day business lives. How about people? We used 3 people to complete the survey. They were the technical owners or the process control engineers of the 3 departments and the president who completed the management section of the survey. Time? It took each of us about 4 hours to complete each section of the survey. One word of advice would be to become as familiar as you can with the levels of each criteria prior to going out on the production floor to start your survey. Results. Quantitative results, number 1. In an audit, you'll either get the standard yes, no, or not applicable per criteria. The survey's rating system will tell you how well you do or don't meet the intent of the criteria based on the 0 to 5 level. A great deal of time was spent developing the levels so that they uniquely identify your accomplishments, whether it's within one department or across all 3 processes. 2, motivation. Each surveyor will interview several of the department's operators based on each subject. Written instructions and objective evidence as it relates to the subject will be necessary to determine the level of achievement. I've found that most people are very proud of their work and really love to show an auditor or surveyor everything they have related to their jobs. Finally, 3, an appreciation for a versatile industrial related checklist. The PCS team, who have been or are investment casters, are all come from different disciplines and product types to help develop this checklist. Each section of the checklist have subjects that are required to be filled in and some that you pick and choose from depending on your equipment, product lines, and other process variables that define your foundry. You can skip over them if they're not relevant. More importantly, you can add items that are not currently part of the checklist as well. I hope that these additions will also help improve your your overall survey score. These features make the checklist very versatile to your specific needs. Examples. So here's 2 examples from BestCast survey, just looking at the ratings themselves. Calibration. Of the 6 evaluation criteria from the BestCast survey, calibrated had the most inconsistent ratings. We analyzed the levels and showed that 2 of the 3 departments had high, low, and 0 levels of calibration in them. I got to tell you, getting a 0 is not fun at all and hurts. Again, by having the rating levels, we're able to attack the areas which make the most sense to improve quickly. The second example was deviations identified. This criteria had the most low scores, and they were consistently in the areas of materials and methods. In some areas, we do a great job of identifying process inconsistencies, and in other areas, we have little or no recognition of deviations in our process or in our product. Sometimes our instructions will describe how to rework or repair a part and move it on to the next operation, rather than identify a deviation that probably should be corrected instead. What's next? Well, first, we want to keep the motivation high. We need to keep our people involved and show them how they are helping to improve the product and the process while keeping them motivated. Secondly, Work on ratings that make the most sense to the customer and the business. Don't just work on it based on the scores. You might be wasting your time. Work on what, as a group, you guys think makes the most sense. Third, implement changes across the development boundaries. Another way to say this is develop best practices. Always, always, always. Please try to keep this in mind. There are a lot of survey criteria where this can be applied, and it can be applied across all the departments. Please do so. Finally, resurvey. Build a plan with a schedule and work to make it happen. Then resurvey and see the improvements your teams have made. Good luck and thanks.
Thank you, Thad. Well, that pretty much brings us to where we are today. Yet we do know we have some further steps to go before we release the program to the world. The team itself does believe that we're ready for prime time, but we want to run at least 2 more verification and validation trials. For this, I'm reaching out to you, our ICI members. We're looking for foundries that are interested in being verification and validation sites. We hope to have this complete by the end of first quarter of next year. And if there's any feedback to improve the system, of course, we'll incorporate that. So for interested foundries in participating in this program at this point, please contact me. My email address is on the screen, or you can just call the ICI office and ask to speak to me. In the interim, the team is working on the development of the surveyor training program. The program is going to address the objectives of the program. The fundamentals of process control will be reviewed. People taking the training will learn the survey terms, the definitions, the scoring associated with that, and they will become well-versed in the procedures for everything from conducting the surveys right through to final certification. It's our objective to have the program open to all members as of third quarter next year. And the program will be free to members in terms of getting yourself a certified surveyor for your facility. I would suggest watching InCast magazine or our social media for updates and information pertaining to this. So what's our timing going forward? We anticipate to have our first bronze level certifications awarded in second quarter of next year. We are also busily establishing our independent surveyor network. We expect to have that fully in place by fourth quarter of next year, just in time for the World Conference in Investment Casting, where we will roll the program out to the entire international community. When a facility receives its certification, that certification will be valid for a period of 2 years. And if a facility, once they receive their bronze, feels 2 months later that they want to go for silver or gold, they certainly can do that, because there's no minimum time between certification levels. With that, I'll turn this back to you, Nip. Thank you very much for your attention, folks.
So we continue on. And how did we get here? It has been a long journey. Some of you has been there with me for a long time. Some of you have coached me many, many times. And there's a lot of faith in our team and some of you who are in the audience that this is a much needed improvement tool for all of us. Support a board of directors of ICI adopting that, and many course correction. There was many suggestions I want to emphasize to all of the people who over the years have given me additional help and direction. Some I've taken. Most of them I've taken. Some were discarded for one reason or other, from ICI, EICF, JFS members. So we want to thank them. And I would like to acknowledge the help received from many people, including ICI staff, John Marson at that time, Pratt and Whitney, and currently Collins, Barry Harvey, who's the ICI member emeritus, Len Seriari from Wisconsin Precision, now happily retired somewhere, Doug Marion from MCM, and myself. And most recently, for the last 5 years or so, the manager of Bestcast, who has given a lot of help to us, management of Kowach Casting, and the continued assistance from ICI staff. And I better help acknowledge the help from Brian Ferg of CPP, Joe Fritz, Greg Lanham, Ted Nykel, Tom Plants, and thank you very much.